dude, let's rip the Band-Aid off, brother, and get right into it. Can't wait to hear your thoughts. Everyone tuned in today for the podcast. I haven't even talked to RV about the weekend, so I am just as stoked to hear his thoughts. And we're going to go ahead and start with the United Motorsports moment of the week. And I know this is probably a surprise to some of you guys, hence my sarcasm right there. It's a collision in Moto 2. Was it dirty or was it not? And do we have a ton of questions on what you guys think our point of view is from what went down with Levi and Haiden there in Moto 2. We got a ton of video and why did this happen and all that fun stuff. So I'm just going to go ahead and tell you or ask you, RV, was it dirty and what's your thoughts on it, brother?
Well, definitely Levi, kind of teed him up when it comes to that right-hand turn right after the sand there. Looking at the video, I've seen all the different angles of the Levi and Haiden crash as we're watching on screen currently for the ones on YouTube and Peacock. But, it wasn't a full T-bone. Levi came in pretty hot. I feel like right about now is when Haiden maybe should have felt or, been aware of the situation, especially because it was lap 1. I don't want to sit here and say it was a racing incident. Look, I've said this on the show before. You got to keep your enemies close when you're somebody like Haiden. And we've all heard everything that Hayden's talked about, how he speaks, a little bit of the demeanor that he has. And I'll be honest, if I was one of those other racers, I wouldn't be super stoked on just the way Hayden's kind of carrying himself. Yeah, he's whooping ass, so that's why he's able to do that. And I give Haiden credit on that side too. He's in the position to be able to do that. But in these 3 rounds of SMX playoffs, when it is compounding points as we go down the line, we're coming into Vegas for the last round of SMX. You got to have some guys that are in your pocket that you can rely on that are, potentially not going to throw it in there like that. And I think his time's kind of come up. I think Levi was over it. I think he ran it in on him. Was it hard? I think the issue that I have with it is he put himself on the ground. He didn't even execute what the goal was, and took Haiden out and himself out. So we can go back. We have lots of footage of obviously the Cole Davies and Haiden. We have Hampshire and Seth Hammaker. Yep. Haiden coming up on the inside. It's just not normal. It's normally Haiden putting those passes on the other riders, not Haiden getting that thrown in his direction. So I don't think it was dirty. I think it was right there on the line. I think if he would have had a little bit different angle and made a little more of an aggressive angle, I think it would have, you could say it was dirty, but no, I think it was racing. But I understand why AMA came in and, gave him the warning, the written warning. But as you can see, he comes in up the inside and he doesn't just fully come in there committed to where he gets on the brakes a little bit, comes in. Haiden just didn't think that was going to happen.
Yeah, I agree with everything that you said. Big picture real quick. And I'd like everyone to consider what RV's saying, whether you're a Kitchen fan or whether you don't like Deegan. And when I take away from what you said, which is awesome, is big picture. And he, how he's aggressive with riders, talking about Haiden and just his approach, whether, like he's strong arms people and, he takes advantage of certain opportunities. And that's right. He is, dude, he's dominant. I mean, he basically backs up everything that he says. On the flip side, exactly like you said, this is when that kind of mentality with your competitors can backfire on you. And honestly, while we're talking about that, I feel like Haiden understands that. Like, I feel like he is smart enough to know, and the people that he has around him are smart enough to tell him, like, listen, dude, if you're gonna talk smack and you're gonna approach your racing the way that you do, you have to be ready for what retaliation is going to look like in certain moments.
Mm.
And so I think that he knows that. I don't think that he was anticipating to happen in this situation. I didn't think that he thought that was going to go down, but I do think you have to have heightened awareness. And I think that he has that. And again, that is, RV, you've talked about it a million times on this podcast and to our fans. And that's the line that you play with. If you're gonna talk and you're gonna strong arm people and just basically take authority, some people are gonna call it bullying, whatever. You have to understand that these are the repercussions at sometimes, and sometimes those happen in critical moments like the playoffs, double points, and it stung. So now he's going into Vegas where he's going to need a little bit of help. We'll get into that a little bit later in the show. But I agree with you as far as comparing it. We had a ton of questions, like RV said. What's the difference in that move compared to Cole Davies and compared to Seth Hamaker and RJ Hampshire? And we have those. So Aaron, roll those two comparisons and we'll tell you straight up what we believe is the difference. So as we're watching the one from Colorado right now, the Cole Davies and Deegan run in. Okay, first of all, let's go big picture on this. All right. It was a championship opportunity. Deegan knew that he had to win, and he understood that if Cole was, I believe at the time, RV, it was outside of the top 5, that he could win the championship. You sat here, I sat here on this podcast, and we talked about the angle and what we deem dirty, gnarly, aggressive, kind of like on the verge of aggressive. We talked about the line and what that looks like in the angle. And he bumped Cole out of the way. It wasn't a straight T-bone. So that's my opinion on it. Where are you at with it?
Yep. Yeah.
And the difference. Sorry.
Yeah. No, exactly. Right there, RC. Like the angle here is much better than what Levi put on Haiden this last weekend, Saturday night. But the way Cole had to finish outside the top 5. It was for a championship race. He won the title this night. Haiden did. But it's also your teammate, right? So I know these guys aren't teammate. Angle's a little steeper here, but this is a playoff round. It's double points. It goes to triple points next weekend. When you look at it from this standpoint, and as you dissect it, I don't want to sit over here and say this is what Feldman AMA wants, but when you have the point structure that we currently have in SMX playoffs, you're going to get desperate moves made like this. And I think it's obviously very entertaining to watch. And as we know, just like points are set up currently, like Haiden is in a little bit of a tough spot after St. Louis, because of the point situation, as it just throws up on the screen. Joe was sitting 92 points, and Hayden's 10 points down, Seth Hamaker 14 down, and Tom VL 25. So yeah, you're going to get some desperate moves, desperate actions when you have the point structure the way it is structured, and then even rolling into Las Vegas, the finale of SMX for the championship, you're going to see more of those moves, more of that desperation for that triple points Saturday night in Vegas, because it's so because of the amount of ground you can gain. In the end with the triple points, it's massive. So any position in front of the next guy is huge, a huge gain.
Can you roll the Hampshire Hamaker video and RV? I'd like for you to break down that one, and you tell them the big picture and tell them where you're at with this and compare it to what happened this weekend.
Yeah, I mean, once again, very similar. Wasn't Hampshire did not execute this very well. Obviously, like I said, just like Levi, Hampshire comes up the inside of Seth, gets right up into the side of him, but they both go down. So the pass was not executed properly, hitting or not hitting. They ended up putting them both on the ground. I'll say it again. The Haiden and Cole and Hampshire and Seth. Definitely the angle wasn't as steep as what Levi ran it on to Haiden with. But you know, all three of these passes we're talking about are very critical parts of the Supercross Championship Series and of the SMX Championship Series, right? So that's the thing that I think needs to be also looked at. I don't think, like, I'll say it again, I don't think Haiden teed him up as to say, hey, I'm coming in here, I'm putting this dude on the ground, whatever happens, I'm not, you know, trying to break his leg type move. I don't think it was that.
Intent.
Yeah,
Yeah. I 100%.
I don't think it was that. I think it was, you know what? He's tired of listening to him. He's had his ass paddled many times by Haiden, rightfully so. Haiden has the grounds to be able to do the things that he does. But regardless, having those grounds or not, you're going to have the whereabouts of something like this happening, some sort of retaliation from somebody, from one of his competitors, and it just happened to be Levi this weekend.
Well, so moving on to the Dunlop due diligence part of our show, I was wondering, like, during the broadcast, I'm like, as we're calling the race RV, and I'm like, well, what spawned this, and like, why did Levi react this way? Because I wanted to give Levi the benefit of the doubt. You'd never see, this isn't in Eli's nature or Levi's nature. When
No.
I mean, even like his personality, dude, right? He's
No.
super low key, great guy to be around with, fun dude to be around with. And this isn't just his MO. I think he's a clean, respectable racer. So, as we're calling the race, I'm like, damn, dude, what, like, maybe we missed something. So afterwards, we're like, we're looking and trying to find some footage. Like, maybe was there retaliation by Levi that he didn't like? So I'm like, I took matters into my own hands, and I hate bugging these guys on Sundays, right? I try not to bug these riders hardly at all. I probably should talk to them a lot more, but I'm always like, dude, I don't want to bother them and try to think like I'm passing the trash. But I just felt like I didn't want to come on this podcast and assume I knew what he was thinking. And so Levi was extremely nice, and he texted back and he told me like his point of view, and it wasn't nothing crazy. I mean, first and foremost, he basically said, without sitting here reading everything to you, he just basically said, I mean, it wasn't his full intent, like you said, to do what he did. And while I say that, he's like, first of all, I'm not very good at doing these kind of.
Yep, I read it. Yep.
Yeah. So he felt, and we have play of this, he felt like going through the first mulch rollers that Haiden looked over at him and moved over at him. So we have that. And I want you to dissect this video. Here it is from both views, RV. And
that's right there. You go down.
Tell us if it was justified and where you're at with this.
Well, I'll put it this way. If I'm Haiden, I'm doing the same thing on Levi. Like I said, I don't think there was anything wrong with the move that Haiden put on right here. Looked over, made sure he had clear room. He was gonna chop Levi off. He was gonna protect the inside. There was enough room there. I personally don't think, if that's what spawned Levi to do what he did, I think that was, how do I say it? A pretty bogus thought process on being like, oh, Haiden cut me off right here. That right there was total race scenario. RC, you would have done it. James would have done it. I would have done it. Chad would have done it. Every one of us would have.
So to answer that question, James and I said, and like, we're looking at stuff and we're like, damn, man, we really can't see anything. And this is like, until seeing these two views today with you on here, I've gotten even a better look. But going back to what Stu and I were talking, RV, we're like, Levi's version of cutting people off, and I think a lot of the riders, not just Levi, cutting people off are a lot different than yours and I's were. Now, when I watch that, I feel a lot like you. Is he was looking over, when I say Haiden coming out of that corner, he was looking over to make sure that they wouldn't collide. Because why the hell would anyone want to cross jump anyone or in midair? You're subjecting yourself to a serious crash and possibly an injury, as well as the rider that you could possibly collide in. I think it was a heads up move, and I think that he eased over. into that inside. I saw a ton of moves like this. I mean, you know, he could have cut that corner off way tighter than that. And you know what, if again, and I go back to, if you're a Levi fan, you're gonna disagree. If you're a Deegan fan, or just in general, you're open to watching and listening to what we say, that was a straight up racing move. And I guarantee you a lot of people would agree.
That was a perfectly executed pass out of the right hand sand turn down that little Dragon's Back mulch section. Made a sweet pass on Levi, looked over, made sure, like to what you said, RC, not going to cross jump or get landed on. The biggest thing right here, okay, if he wants to cross jump him, that's one thing, and he can go and do that. Obviously, it's not great etiquette from a racing standpoint. But the biggest thing is Haiden would have been on the losing end of that stick if he would have cut over a lot harder, because Levi would have landed on him. And who's on the bottom of that would have been Haiden. So I don't think he put himself in that position to do any harm in that regard. I think he was just straight up racing. Okay, I got room right here. I have 2 more miles an hour coming out of the sand. I'm going to come over. I'm going to look before I do it. And I'm going to close the door on Levi.
Yeah, and I'm giving you guys cliff notes. And so Levi, again, thanks a bunch for getting back to me. It's like, it wasn't just that move, you know, like when he was telling, you know, in that text, it was a buildup of everything. I mean, I understand from Levi's side. I mean, you know, it's been, you know, in a year that probably he'd like to forget. He had a gnarly injury. Glad that he came back from that at Daytona, and just like, you know, he's just tired of it. And
yeah, and
I think it was just, dude, Haiden caught him at a bad time. If it was anyone other than Haiden, because of how Haiden is, like, Levi says he respects him as a racer. He says he's a great racer, and his accomplishments, didn't say accomplishments, but he respects that. But outside of that, he doesn't agree with his approach. And I think most of the people in his class don't. And I just think he got him at a wrong time, and that's the end of it.
Yeah, and they've had a little bit of beef, you know, or early Supercross this year, into a little bit of outdoors before Daytona. I think, you know, also they were, you know, battling back and forth. There was some little bit of words said here and there, you know, like early this season. So I think, like you said, RC, a bit of buildup. But it is what it is. It put Haiden in a little bit of a tricky spot. Not to mention, the exit pass was not executed. So now Levi's even in a worse spot than Haiden. So, you know, it didn't work out for either of them.